this kind of stuff, right? The best
Right.
part about doing this is you can actually do it wherever you are,
I know.
right? Yeah,
We're going to do it right from my pickup truck.
exactly. You can do it from vacation. So I think we are live, but let me do this real quick for a second, just so I can. No. Hey, GR, how are you?
Doing
Welcome to
fantastic. How are you, Terry?
Good. Did you have a good weekend?
Had a great weekend. A lot of baseball. My 13-year-old, he played 5 baseball games, and he made a diving catch in left
Oh,
field, which is the best catch he's ever made in his life. So it was fun. It was exciting.
yeah.
Good day. Good weekend.
Well, hey, didn't we see each other this weekend? You met my husband, but I realized I didn't meet your wife.
She was there. She was
Okay, I met
there.
your mom.
Yep. Yep. My wife and I came a little bit later because I was actually finishing up a real estate deal. Somebody made an offer, and I wanted to get it signed off and everything,
Yeah.
so I could take the house off the market, and everybody was excited about it. So a little longer than I had planned, so I got there a little late. But yeah, you saw my 22-year-old performing. He likes to play guitar and sing country music, and he does that locally. So I appreciate you coming. That was great.
Yeah, so I was going to say, what, the house that you had on the market for like a whole 4 hours, you mean?
24 hours, yeah.
Yeah, so it's good. It's important for people, especially in our area. Like I say, everything for us is general counsel information we share about real estate, investing, and business growth, right? Growing a
Yeah,
profit, putting it in your pocket, but you also have to make sure it's specific to your area, right?
right.
So, but yeah, for real estate, houses still aren't staying on the market in our area. If they're priced right, they're gone. You know,
Yep.
inventory is still scarce. But then also, we got a chance to meet your mom. So she was telling us about your brother Rocky's movie, right? And she said she watched it 4 times. So she's like, every time somebody comes to the house, she's like, hey, did you watch Rocky's movie? So when we left, my husband said to your mom, we're going to go home and watch that. So I told him, we are watching that movie this weekend. So I said, I am not, after spending this time talking with GR's mom, I am not going to see her and say we did not watch the movie. So, so we watched the movie, but
Good. Did you like it?
yeah,
Good.
yeah. So do you? I want to. You want to start with something you're thankful for? Because
Yeah.
we always want to encourage people living in a spirit of thankfulness. So we always want to start something that we're thankful for. I usually do that on every live.
Well, the reason I'm in my truck is because I was showing a house to a friend of mine, and I'm grateful for all my friends and family that have supported me over the
Yeah,
past 17 years in the real estate business. Because really, without their support and encouragement, and trust using me and recommending me, I probably would have had to go find something else to do.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
And
I'm
that's
just thankful for all my clients and all my friends and family who've supported me over the years.
yeah. So I was going to say everybody can testify though. That's easy to do because you're
Yeah.
trustworthy. You know, and I think our last week's talk was having trusted contractors, right? And we can recognize trusted. I always tell my kids, you can recognize people if you're that person. If you want to
Yeah.
find people who are trustworthy, be trustworthy, you know? So I'm still thankful for my right arm because I'm still asking God to heal it. But this weekend, my husband, and I was thinking about this because I'm thinking about a couple different things to chat about on our live today. My husband
Yeah.
finished putting together a Harley, right? Which he kind of like redid. I'm like, oh my God, he's so impressive. But he won't let me ride it until he knows it's safe. Right?
Right.
So he won't let me get on the, so he wants to drive it around, test drive it, and he won't ride it until he knows the Harley's safe. I did a little post about that, kind of like
Sure.
how God is with us also making, not wanting us to stay safe. But I started thinking about that with real estate investing, right? And like
Yeah.
what I tell my clients this morning, I started thinking about that because we're going on this live. And I think you've heard me say this before. I always say, just because you have money doesn't mean we spend it, right? And we
Right.
all and investing in real estate can be lowest risk possible once you
Yeah.
start knowing neighborhood to buy in, what to look for. It really. I realize for us, it doesn't have to be. So I'm kind of thankful. I'm thankful we have a Harley now, but I'm thankful for how that gets me to thinking about, what's safe and what's a safe investment, what's not a safe
Sure.
investment, And when you have a team of people behind you and you're plugging into an association of people like who are moving in that same direction, right? There's power in
Right.
association through education and experience,
Yep.
so hey, I want to start with this. A conversation that I've had a couple times this week. I wrote it down so I would remember it. This is what I do. I post things on Facebook so I can remember I want to talk about it later.
Sure.
Now I got to find it, but it's a conversation I had. That's not it. It's a conversation about who really is the wealthiest. Right, here you go. Ready? So here's a conversation I've actually had with several clients. One person or household earns $120,000 a year, earning that money 4 months out of the year. So they end up having 8 months out of the year off, right? I consider that time freedom. And they can still put 20% of their income into building wealth. Ready? The second household has the person or the household earns $250,000 a year while working 40 to 60 hours a week, or if it's two people, you could be working 60 to 120 hours a week to bring that in, right? But they still struggle to build their net worth, right? And they still struggle to pay their bills. So the first household is making 120,000, the second is 250, but who's the wealthiest?
I definitely say option number one. I definitely take the 120 with the free time freedom.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So because sometimes when people we're talking about real estate investing, that's why I always talk about getting to $100,000 a year passive income, right? It doesn't even sound like a big number, but when you throw in the word passive, there's a lot that goes to that. And I've actually heard something today that I didn't know. It was the way it was put. I didn't realize this, but it makes total sense. Have you ever heard this? That the average person who earns $1 spends $1.25 of what they earn. I'm gonna have to study that because that's significant. That really does. In our situation, when Steve and I went from making $400 a week to $250,000, right?
Yeah.
Gross income a year, and I always say we were still broke. Oh, are we
you
still
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard you say you made $250,000, but you still felt broke.
Still broke because we were still spending more than we were making. So we probably were in that situation where for every dollar we were spending, because we didn't know how to earn, separate, and distribute, right? So it was the order. So like here's a question for you, right? That people should, I don't think that they ever consider, and this is the difference between people who advance financially and then who stay in the struggle or keep wondering, how do I figure it out? Right? It's the order in how you distribute your funds. Right? So for yourself personally, what order would you say that you distribute your funds in, or you've learned to distribute your funds in, and maybe share if you might, how you got to that point, if you can, because I know it wasn't easy. You're always saying you started behind the 8 ball. Mm-hmm.
I did. So I started as a school teacher, and everybody knows that school teachers don't make great money. Not only that, my wife and I, something that was important to us is that she was home to take care of our children. So I was a single income household. There were times where she would, watch other people's kids and, stuff like that to try and help out. And then I always worked a second job. I DJ'd wedding receptions and birthday parties and company holiday parties for 13 years. I did that on Friday nights and Saturday nights to try and make that extra money. Can you hear me? I lose you?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, okay.
So we're still here on our end.
All right. So I used that extra money that I made to invest. And mainly I look to invest in real estate. But I also have always looked at other investments as well.
Okay, we're back.
Okay.
So I lost you where you talked about how you did for 13 years every Friday and Saturday night.
Not every Friday and Saturday night, but probably about 50 to 60 times a year. I would go out and make extra money, and I'd make anywhere from $300 to $500 a night doing that, and that was an extra $1,000 to $2,000 a month that I could invest. That was my investing money. So I was always looking to invest in real estate. Always had an interest in the stock market. As a place to put away a little bit of it and save it up for a good real estate investment. and things like that. And then it wasn't until I got my real estate license and started selling real estate part-time that I actually had enough money to really feel like I could kind of distribute it the way you're talking about.
Yes.
So once that happened, that's when I started kind of implementing, like try to live off of 70%.
Yeah.
And I had already accumulated some debt. So my formula was this: it was live on 70%, 10% went to charity or tithing, 10% went to debts, and 10% went to investing, because that's what I could do. You know what I mean? So
Right.
we started doing that, and it worked out pretty well. And now, I feel like I've grown a really nice rental portfolio. And right now, where I'm at, I'm not necessarily looking to grow it any bigger unless I come across a really good deal, which would be hard to say no to.
Right.
So now I'm looking at really just eliminating debt to make my time freedom better, to reduce financial responsibility. So my main goal right now is not so much expand my portfolio, but to pay down, debts and stuff that aren't being paid for by somebody else, if that makes sense, right? So
Yeah. So you're
yeah,
wanting to increase your net worth now with the portfolio you have.
right, exactly. So,
You're
and I have kids in college now, so that there's an expense that comes along with that. So, as life moves along, things evolve, and you have other expenses, in different areas, and you know,
Mhm. So would you say, so when I'm talking specifically the order that you distribute in, so what we're talking, what you just shared is a formula, right? So like
right?
I always share a formula: live off of 70%, invest 20% or save, give 10%. But the order, right? So the order that
Yeah,
you do it in, it would be, is it to give first and then to do this 20% distribution and then to live off of the rest? Because I think the
yeah,
difference between, if people are spending their money first on their, everybody, I know for myself it used to be, oh, let me spend money first on my bills to eat, and
right,
then whatever I have left over I'll set aside for saving and investing. But that's the wrong order, because there's never any left over. Even if
right,
your mind says I'm going to live off of 70%, when you get your money, if it's how you distribute it and where you put it
right.
first, right?
Right. So there's a great book called The Richest Man in Babylon. It's written by George Clayson. He was a
Yep.
financial advisor, I think, back in like 1950s, and he wrote a series of short kind of stories that explain financial concepts. And obviously, one of those that's very well known is pay yourself first, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
pay, if you're a charitable person or you're a tithe payer, pay your tithing and pay yourself first, and then figure out with what's left over, um, how to pay the bills. And I heard Robert Kiyosaki say one time, he said, there was a time where there wasn't enough money left over to pay all the bills. He said, but that kept me highly motivated to figure
Yes.
out a way to earn more income so that I can continue. And I've often said I kind of run at the red line. What I mean by that is I always pay myself first, and I pay my tithing, and then when I realize that there's not enough money to pay all those bills, man, the level of motivation I have at that point is really high. And I start becoming very creative, and I start thinking of ways that I can make my business better or expand my business in some way. I'm a broker, so I start getting on the phone and talking to real estate agents and recruiting. Like, it motivates me when I got, bills that got to get paid or debts that are owed. If I'm a little short, I start getting real motivated. You know what I mean? So it keeps me
Yeah.
going hard, and it keeps me creative.
And that's key, because I think, I mean, I'm personally hoping to get into some schools in 2024. I've been talking to some educators and getting into some schools
Yeah.
and teaching this to, the children in our community. And,
Hmm.
um, and that to me right there is key, is the order that you pay it in. Give, pay yourself first. So now I want to piggyback off that a little bit, because sometimes we hear a term, and we can interpret it based on our life experience and what that means to us. So when I was younger and I used to hear the pay yourself first, right? Even though I'm positive I read that book, I love that book, but I read that first. In my mind, pay yourself first was I work really hard, so I should have some spending money, which I now call freedom money, which is in the 70%. But when we're talking about pay yourself first, we mean you're going to give what you're going to give, you're going to pay, you're going to save and invest, and then you're going to distribute your funds to take care of your household responsibilities and your committed responsibilities, right? And what you put your word to. Okay, right. So that order is super, super important.
Yes. Another phrase that kind of sums it up a little bit is it doesn't matter how much you make, it matters how much you keep.
How much you keep.
So it's how much you keep that makes you wealthy. And again, the word wealth is only you can define what that means to you. Right. So that word means different things to different people. Like I said, I spent the whole weekend with my 13-year-old son. Being able to do that to me is a form of wealth, to have that kind of time freedom, to be able to coach his team and be there and not miss any of his games. To me, I've always been a grateful person, and I've always felt that I've been blessed. And even when I was broke, I was still blessed. I was just didn't have a lot of extra money, but being wealthy wealth can come in different forms, is my point. It doesn't have to be monetary. But from a financial standpoint, if you never put anything aside for yourself, if you never keep any of what you earn, then you're never going to be wealthy.
You're never going to get out of the struggle and the wondering, why can't I figure it out? Because you won't be able to keep up with inflation. You won't.
Right.
And then because your paychecks won't keep up with inflation. So you've got to have money, using money to make money for you. And so I actually got an opportunity to talk to a young couple. They were both 25 years old. And couples can do this like right now. So when we're doing these conversations, and I think one of the things we want to target too is what's a step that you can do right now. So changing the way you distribute your funds, you can do right now. And so I'm sharing this because the conversation, one of the things they decided to do was they both opened up an account and they each commit to putting like $150 a week in it, right? So $300 a week, that's like $1,200 a month. And I recommend this for people because you know how we like to say, if you can rent, you can own. If you can own, you can buy your first investment property. If you can buy your first investment property, you can move to your second. You can build to 10 or 4 or 30 if you want to, right? Because you're repeating what works. But one of the things I thought was interesting, which piggybacks off what you said here, was he said one time, so they've been doing it for 6 months, which is good. In my financial coaching, I say, if you do something for a year, because a lot of people are like, oh, I tried that, it didn't work. How long do you try it for? 3 months. Okay. Right? But it's once you've done it for a year, you can consider that consistent. Once you've done it for 2 years, we always say in our Proverbs 31 lifestyle community, right? We always say, now you're moving into lifestyle. So if you've saved for about a year, you can consider yourself being consistent. Once you've done it for about 2 years, you can consider now you're turning that into a lifestyle habit, a way of doing things. And what he said to me was, we wanted to get into it one time, right? He said, I can't remember the reason, but it was hard to fight not to touch it. But I think that's key right there is like when people are building an emergency fund and I think it's important also to label it. Like they're labeling this our house fund. So I think it's important for people to say, this is our house fund. This is our first rental. This is our second, like this is the next rental. Go ahead.
Yes. And there's a lot of programs out there. There's a lot of software out there. A lot of it's free that you can use to help do this. I mean, it's budgeting is what it is. And I have a software, product that I use that helps me do all of this. It has it schedules in income that comes in, it schedules in the tithing, it schedules in the savings, it schedules in the investment, it schedules in everything. It even schedules in the bills that have to be paid. So I have everything in that software, and it really takes a lot of stress off because I can look 3 months out ahead and see, where things are and where I'm going to be and everything like that.
So, and I do like to say it's a little bit more than budgeting because it's purposeful distributing. It's
Yes.
how you distribute your funds when it comes in. And so one of the things I like to say, like, here's an action step that you can take right now. When people get paid, they're usually broke by the time they get paid, right? But how about you set time aside 24 hours after you get paid, and that's when you're going to purposefully distribute. So when you start training yourself to do that, instead of, oh, I got paid, let me hurry up, you're giving yourself 24 hours to pause. And when you budget, you're already saying purposefully where it's going to go. But now, after that 24 hours, you need to purposefully distribute it that way, right? Because that's what's going to get people to have the ability that, like, that's an action step you can take right now. And it will be hard if you're not used to conditioning yourself to do that, which is, and we can start our kids. And that's how it's really just training. The same way you would train your kids to play softball, right? You got to train and do over and do over and keep doing it over, right? And I think that sometimes, I was thinking about this too, sometimes people are like, oh, I just keep going back and forth, and they beat themselves up from going back and forth and being inconsistent. But I looked at that differently this weekend. I don't know what it was. I had an aha moment this weekend. I realized, no, you can give yourself credit for starting over again. It means that you are not quitting, starting again. Instead of beating yourself up for falling and having to start again, you can give yourself credit for starting again. And you have to keep starting again until you accomplish that goal. And I think labeling what you're going to spend the money on, right? Because if you don't say, this is a purposeful spending fund, I'm going to get that one investment property.
Right.
Or, the other thing too, I noticed about this young couple, because he didn't seem to be, and it reminded me of another young client I have who, by the time they're 30, their net worth is probably going to be $1 million, right? And I asked them, what stops you from being fearful? Because I realize that my investors who are 50, who are starting, they're afraid. Like, for them, it really is like, whew, because I think they've made so many financial mistakes that they're afraid, is this a financial mistake? But what I realized about these couples is they're not afraid because, and after getting in conversation with them, it's because they saw other people doing it, right? They were in conversations with other people who already have. Like, one young lady said, oh, my parents have rentals. And the one young guy, and it took me a little bit to dig deep with him, because I'm like, listen, you didn't grow up thinking this. What caused you to think you wanted to put in investments? And that's when he realized, I actually, my boss invests. So if you want to do something like invest in real estate, you have to get yourself in a room full of people. And I say full, it can be like what we do on Tuesday nights, right? 5 people show up, 25 people are there, 12 people are there. You're getting yourself connected with people who are investing if you want to invest, because you have to see it through the eyes of someone who's successful instead of your neighbor or your broke friend who is like, no, that doesn't work. You have to actually put yourself in the room with people who are doing it.
Right. 100%.
So,
yeah.
Wow. Anything you want to piggyback off of that?
No, I just think, like you said, a lot of it's mindset. And that's getting in the room with other people, talking to people, finding a mentor, reading a book, attending a seminar. Any of those things can help your mindset and help you get motivated to get in the direction you want to get in and start to do that, plan of paying yourself first and planning for your future. It's not going to be an overnight thing. When people say, well, that doesn't work. Well, yeah, if you think you're going to buy a rental and next year in 2024, you're going to be rich and you're going to retire, it doesn't work like that. But there's nothing in life that does, right? I heard one of my mentors say, if it's easy, it's probably sleazy. You know what I mean? So anything that is going to be worthwhile is going to take some time to put together and make it work. But, if you want to build a pipeline, that's going to produce cash flow, you got to start with that first rental. And that might mean you got to start by saving up a few $1,000s. And that might mean that you got to put away $400 a month or $300 a month or whatever you can afford to do to start building that pipeline. But once you start, once you get that first rental, like you said, that's the hardest part, is getting the first one. Then getting the second one, just a matter of doing what you just did and just do it over again. Just repeat that formula.
Yeah. So that actually reminds me of one of the of a couple that I have. Now they're well, she's retired, he's not. But one of the things that fascinated me about them was right away, and everybody can do this. Right away, she started saving $500 a month. She can't remember why she did it, right? But well, and she did it to buy their first house. But here's what she didn't do. After she bought her first house, she didn't stop saving. She kept saving. And I think that's where people, they save to an emergency fund. They save to a certain, so they never have a saving and investing goal, right? So we talk about distributing. It's give 10%, take 20% to earn, to save and invest, and then live off of 70%. And if that's not a formula somebody can do right away, you have to do something. I mean, I know a church who realized, wow, we need to get our finances in order. And they just decided, now they're using bigger numbers, but they decided just to save 2% for the year. And it began to grow. And then what happens is when you start realizing, oh, I can do this, you start to change your percentage. But you have to be, I also think this is what I've learned from financial coaching. It does have to be a significant amount, right? Because I started telling people, if you can't even save $200 a month, your desire to get ahead financially isn't. So I do think you should try to save $200 a month, but you need to increase that to $500 as soon as you can.
You were saying you got to save a significant amount of money, and I think that is true.
Yes.
And you want to increase that, because I said it doesn't matter how much you make; it's how much you keep. You know what I mean? And what happens is once you do save up a significant chunk of money, opportunities start presenting themselves. You start thinking different. You start seeing things different. You're like, oh, I could do this. I could do that. The gentleman I'm showing a house to today, the reason I'm from the truck, he's looking at a 4,500 square foot building that was built in 1935. It was a mansion, and he's looking at converting it into 5 or maybe even 6 smaller 1 and 2 bedroom units. Now, if he had never saved, he makes good income. He's a young guy. But if he wasn't putting that money away, this wouldn't even be a consideration. You know what I mean? So because he has a couple $100,000 saved, now he's like, all right, I want to do something significant. I want to produce $5,000 or $6,000 a month in passive income with a multi-unit. Which I'm not saying that's the way for everybody. I'm just saying it's an option. Options open up.
Yeah, and I'm just saying with financial coaching, what I found is if the amount that you save isn't significant, and then you have an emergency, and then you have to use all that money for this major emergency, you start to think that saving doesn't matter anyway. So it has to be significant. You have to keep starting. Well, I think that we're at like 30 minutes now. So it's not tonight that we have our, it's next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday at Myers Realty, people can get in the room, and that's for free for like 8 more weeks. Right? That's free for like 8 more weeks, or I don't even remember what week we're on. But are we on week 4 or 5? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
That's open to anyone in our community to come, right? Google Myers Realty.
I think this is the 3rd one. This is the 3rd week we've done.
Okay. So, boy, it feels like, I don't know. I guess it feels like I've been meeting with this group for a little bit, but
I think we started in April. I think it was April, May, and this is our 3rd one.
Okay, yeah, you're right. It's the first Tuesday of every month except for July, because that's 4th of July. That's going to be the 2nd Tuesday. But people can come out, they can get in the room, and we're talking about goal setting.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited about that. So
sure. Me too. Should be great.
All right, GR.
Awesome.
Thank you. Blessings.
All right, guys. Great. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Okay. Hey, you guys, before I jump off today, I want to talk about something that I'm starting. And anyway, I hope that you got value out of that conversation, because it is a step that anybody can do. Anybody can decide right now that you are going to change the way that you distribute your funds, because if you pay your bills first, right, and then decide you're going to save and invest, you're never going to feel like you have enough. So you have to make up your mind to distribute it in a way where if you give what you're going to give, save to invest. We recommend 20%, right? And then work on living off of 70%. But the way that you distribute your funds, and then if you know, like I suggest in our financial coaching, you already know how you're going to distribute your funds because you've created a realistic budget so that you can distribute it in a certain way, and you know when this paycheck comes in or this sale comes in, this is how I'm going to distribute it. You need to really monitor that and wait 24 hours is a suggestion, so that you're not, you break that habit of getting the money and spending it, getting the money and spending it, and move into the habit of, okay, I got paid, so the next day I'm going to purposefully decide how I'm going to distribute it. Okay, so before I hop off of here, I want to just chit chat with you a little bit. A question I keep getting asked, and I've gotten asked actually several times this month, is, Terry, do you do one-on-one coaching? And I like group coaching because I like the synergy of group coaching. I feel like in a group coaching community and in a group coaching session, you can learn what other people are doing to position themselves better and to break the bad habits that they have and move into the healthier habits, right, of increasing their finances, decreasing unhealthy debt. So I feel like group coaching can have this synergy effect that I love. But what I realize also with personal finances, business growth, and finances, I feel like I realize now that it's a very personal thing to people. And so many are looking for one-on-one coaching. So I am now offering, I've blocked out 24 hours a month to do financial coaching. And so you could be actually, because I'm going to take this video and I'm going to repurpose it. So you could actually be watching this either on YouTube, on Facebook, in one of my groups, maybe on LinkedIn, or you could also be watching it on the page where I'm offering on my website where I'm offering the one-on-one coaching, which is Proverbs 31 Lifestyle, right? So www.proverbs31lifestyle.com. So I am blocking out 24 hours a month, which is 6 hours a week, to do one-on-one coaching for those who, now, here's how you want to determine if you're ready for the one-on-one coaching, okay? Because there's a lot of videos that you can watch, and what you really want to do is make good use of that time. So I always recommend for people to write down what kind of questions you would, if you had that time with me, right? It's going to be a 50-minute session. What questions would you ask? And so imagine yourself getting ready to sit down and have that session with me, and you have a list of questions that you want to ask, either to improve your finances, to grow a profit, for personal or business, investing. So what question is it that I want to ask? And you should really look for that question to be more of a specific question and not a general question. Okay, and then you want to take the time to see if you can answer that question, or you can research that question. Because if you can answer the question or research the answer for yourself, then it's not the question that you want to ask me, right? The question that you want to ask me when you're blocking out that time with me is the place that you're stuck at. So make a list. So my suggestion is to make a list of questions and then see if you can answer that for yourself. Because sometimes what you need to do is you need to get to really the right question. And you don't really want to pay me to get to the right question when you can work that through, block out 2 hours a week, right, to review your finances, and you can work through getting to the right question. And then when you get to that question sometimes leads to another question, which leads to the real question. And the real question where you would want to hire me, block out that time with me, is the question that you're stuck on. So this is where I'm stuck, and now this is why I need coaching, right? So you want to do a little bit of work yourself. So let's recap that a little. Make a list of questions, pause for a second, see if you can answer those questions for yourself and get to the next question and get to the real main question that you want to ask, right? And that's where you really want to block out that time to get to the question that leads to the question, all right? So when you block out that 50-minute time block, you know it's really getting your questions answered that is going to move you, propel you, right, or get you to your next financial level, whatever that might be for you, okay? All right, you guys, so yeah, gave you some takeaways here. We've started a YouTube channel, so we are posting things on YouTube, and if you are not on our email list, you want to get on our email list. I believe in affiliate marketing. I actually have an affiliate marketing affiliate program for my group coaching, which I think is really good. It's you have to be part of our community, but when you refer someone using your link, you get 50%. So we've created that as an avenue, another way for people to generate income for themselves, right? So I'm pretty excited about that. But all right, blessings and God's favor to you guys. You know, just remember, you're meant to be the one. Whatever it is that God has placed on your heart and mind, you're meant to be the one to create that thing, right? Okay, blessings and God's favor. Love you guys. Mwah.